Every year, there are teams that find themselves in difficult positions where their outlook seems bleak, and a lot has to go right for them to overcome the obstacles in their way. These are teams that have tried their hardest to win at the highest level, but for a variety of reasons, things have not gone their way, and if things continue down that path, they are the ones who are most likely to end up blowing things up and starting over by entering a bit of a rebuilding period. That brings us to today's video, where we'll be discussing the 4 NBA teams that, going into the new season, are the most likely groups to end up blowing things up this year. This doesn't mean they can't figure things out, it just means they're the ones in position that makes them most likely to have to go that route given the circumstances. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I'd also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first team we'll be discussing today that is among those most likely to blow things up this season is the Sacramento Kings. The Kings once held the NBA's longest playoff drought, going 16 years without making it to the big dance, but in 2023 they ended that streak by finishing as the 3 seed in a tough Western Conference, and with that accomplishment they were hoping it would result in a level up that secures them as contenders from there on out. But 2 years later, that season seems more like a fluke than a sustainable level of play, and they've missed the playoffs each of the last 2 seasons after that. They also once faced a problem where they had to pick between 2 all-star caliber point guards to build around, with both De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Halliburton blossoming in the same backcourt, and now 3 years later, they don't have either of those players, and their roster's point guard depth is amongst the worst in the association. What made that 2023 Kings team so great was that they had the league's #1 ranked offense behind an up-tempo style of play where De'Aaron Fox was pushing the pace, they had shooters all throughout their lineup, and when the game slowed down, Domantas Sabonis shined as a force in the middle that the offense ran through as both a scorer and a facilitator. Since that season, the team has tried to make win-now moves to get them over the top, but the execution has been poor, and now they're once again stuck in the realm of mediocrity at best and disappointment at worst. The addition of DeMar DeRozan seems nice as someone who has made a long career out of scoring the basketball effectively, but he's also a bit of a ball stopper who has never embraced the three-point line, so sticking him on a team like the Kings, who found all of their success by playing a more modern brand of basketball where they move the rock and shoot a lot of threes, was never going to be that good of a fit. Then, when De'Aaron Fox asked for a trade last season, they swapped him for Zach LaVine, who was admittedly a good player to add in return in a vacuum, because LaVine is an incredibly efficient 3-level scorer, but he's by no means a playmaker or a lead ball handler, nor does he play a lick of defense. And now the Kings seem to have rebuilt the 2023 Chicago Bulls for some reason. This team has way too many players that struggle on defense, and too many players that thrive with the ball in their hands while simultaneously not being good enough to be a team's #1 option to survive in a loaded Western Conference. And when they inevitably miss the playoffs again this year, they're going to have to ask themselves some difficult questions about their future. The next team we'll be discussing that's amongst those likely to blow things up this year is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks reached the mountaintop back in 2021 when they beat the Phoenix Suns in the finals to bring home the Larry O'Brien Trophy to Milwaukee for the first time since 1971, which cemented Giannis Antetokounmpo's legacy as an all-time great. But ever since then, the team has been on a downward spiral despite trying to do everything possible to keep themselves afloat. After a humiliating first-round exit from the playoffs when they were the 1 seed in 2023, the team got aggressive and traded for Damian Lillard, expecting his flamethrower shooting and playmaking prowess to rejuvenate their struggling offense. But instead, the trade-off from defense to offense was too great, and their perimeter defensive woes became very glaring. The Bucks have also struggled through coaching changes that have arguably gotten worse and worse with each hiring, going from Mike Budenholzer to Adrian Griffin Griffin to now Doc Rivers. Over the last 2 seasons, the Bucks have also not won a single playoff series, and to end last season, Damian Lillard unfortunately suffered a torn Achilles that is likely to derail the rest of his career. Instead of seeing through Lillard's max contract, the Bucks then chose to buy his contract out, which means that they'll have $20 million of dead cap on their payroll for the foreseeable future, preventing them from taking big swings in free agency to retool around Giannis Antetokounmpo. Their big acquisition this summer was Miles Turner, stealing him away from the Indiana Pacers after their run to the finals. And while I can definitely admit that Turner's fit next to Giannis Antetokounmpo in the front court is strong, he's just not a good enough player to overcome all of the other weaknesses that this team has, especially as a group that was underperforming previously. If they can't win a single playoff series with Damian Lillard running the offense, then I'm even less confident in them returning to the top of the East with Kevin Porter Jr. at the helm. And if the Bucks come out of the gate with a record below 500 early on, then the rumors surrounding Giannis Antetokounmpo's future with the team are only going to grow louder. Giannis insists that he's locked in for the long haul there, but he has also emphasized several times that he's committed to competing for championships while he's in his prime, and if the Bucks prove not to be good enough around him to compete at that level for a 3rd year in a row, then he will inevitably re-evaluate his options, and from there, the blow-up could begin. The next team we'll be discussing amongst the groups most likely to blow things up this year is the Philadelphia 76ers. The 76ers are in a bit of a make or break spot at the moment. They've got 2 gargantuan contracts on their payroll, with Joel Embiid and Paul George ranking near the top of the NBA in salary, and neither player played over half of the team's games last season, with both struggling mightily with injuries throughout. It's easy to just write off injuries as a fluke and focus on what they can do when they're at full strength, but with certain players, it's irresponsible to not take into account their history of injuries and apply them to what we can reasonably expect moving forward. With Joel Embiid, he has torn his meniscus twice in his career now, and from the reports that have been made about the situation, it doesn't seem as though it ever fully recovered. He's been dealing with pain in that meniscus ever since, and last season we saw him try to hobble his way through the pain before being shut back down for the remainder of the year. The hope is that after having finally taken an extended amount of time to rest it, he can get back to playing at a near dominant level like we've seen from him over the last 5 years, where he took home an MVP award and went toe-to-toe with Nikola Jokic in that award race on 3 other occasions. But the reality is that his days producing at that level may be over for good. If he can at least stay on the court and produce at a slightly below his MVP caliber days, then the Sixers now have a lot more talent to pick up the load around him, but if he has another repeat of last season, then the team may be cooked. As for Paul George, he's 35 years old, so the likelihood of him turning back the clock is even lower with the knee issues he's been dealing with. He's coming off of the worst season of his career, where you could tell that he lost a step off the dribble, and his inability to separate impacted his efficiency a ton. If he becomes what Chris Middleton was post his injuries, those last few years that he was still playing in Milwaukee, then the Sixers would probably rather try to trade him, and since no team will want to give up anything of value for that monstrosity of a contract, then they'd likely have to salary dump him, and if that's the route they're going down, then it'll likely signify the time that the team will shift their focus to their young backcourt and build around Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and VJ Edgecombe. And finally, the last team we'll be discussing in the group most likely to blow things up this year is the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies came out hot as a young group shooting up to being the 2 seed in the Western Conference back-to-back in 2022 and 2023, with Ja Morant on what seemed like a superstar trajectory. Jaren Jackson Jr. was solidifying himself as one of the best defenders in the game while also steadily improving on the offensive end, and Desmond Bane serving as a tremendous third option as a knockdown shooter with slept-on creation skills. The team was also very deep at every position, and looked like a group destined to take over the West at some point. They were never able to take that leap though, as they've won just one single playoff series together as a core, and after 2023, things have gone downhill. They've dealt with off-the-court issues from Ja Morant, which led to a suspension in 2024. Morant has also struggled with injuries that have set him back since that point, and now Ja is coming off of the worst season that he's had since 2021. The Grizzlies have already proven they're willing to shake things up to get themselves back on track by trading Desmond Bane away this summer, and while the haul of first-round picks that they got for him served as incredible return value, it also indicates that they may be looking towards the future if the present doesn't yield better results. For a team that was once expected to take the conference over, it now seems as though the Western Conference has passed them by, after the Grizzlies finished as the 8th seed last year, with minimal change heading into the new season. If Morant can't return to his 2022 form, then the Grizzlies front office may feel as though he's not worth the distractions that he sometimes provides on and off the court, and if they are a group whose ceiling has already been reached, then there are no easy answers for how to fix that, leading to a blow-up being a realistic possibility. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below which teams you think will blow it up next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.